to all our chartered accountants friends. We welcome you all to a very special webinar on leadership, growth, and professional balance for the chartered accountant. Since, as you all are aware, that this is a very new committee in its inaugural year, the Committee on Promoting Work-Life Balance, being started under the leadership of our President, CA Charanjot Singh Nandaji, as well as our Vice President, CA Prasanna Kumar DG. This committee is of very prime importance since we are all bounded by our so many boundaries, deadlines, heavy work pressures, and everything. But yes, our life, this reminds us that our life, our personal gratitude, our things are very important. So I welcome you all for taking and thank you all for taking your time and coming here for this special webinar. And we have our special guest out here that CA Raghav Singhal will be our speaker of this topic, as well as CA Shivangji is our moderator for this topic. Thank you so much for coming out here. Thank you, Raghavji, and thank you, Shivangji, for coming here and sparing the time for us, for all our chartered accountants friends. I'm sure your guidance would help us out to take out so many meaningful areas, so many meaningful impacts, which could help us in our day-to-day life as well as during our professional, as a bridge towards our professional, filling the bridge towards our professional excellence. This committee is being run by our chairman, CA Jayacheraji, as well as our vice chairman, CA Sridhar Mupalaji. We have been taking a lot of initiatives and trying to incorporate what are the requirements of our chartered accountants fraternity. We have daily virtual yoga as well as daily virtual Zumba sessions, which is in Fit CA Moments, which is on a regular basis. All the videos, these are all virtual sessions, all the videos are also available on ICI YouTube channel. You can open and take the maximum advantage of it. Plus we are doing many webinars on regular basis on every Friday, trying to incorporate all the topics of work life balance. And if you have any other suggestions also, you can always come up at wlbc@icai.in with your own suggestions so that we can incorporate that also. So not taking much time, so over to you, Shivangji, for the session.
Thank you, ma'am, for the warm welcome and introduction of the committee. At this stage, I take the opportunity to laud the efforts put in by the committee and the dignitaries, Chairman being CA Jayacharya, Vice Chairman CA Sridhar Mupala, and Secretary CA Priyamvada Girdhar. The efforts put in by the dignitaries is truly appreciable because this is a topic, a subject that is of vital importance for we professionals in today's day and age. At this juncture, I would also take the opportunity to introduce our learned speaker for the afternoon, CA Raghav Singhal. CA Raghav Singhal is a chartered accountant with close to 10 years of post-articleship experience in statutory audits and technical accounting advisory across Ind AS, US GAAP, and Indian GAAP. He is currently associated with Baker Tilly One India, a leading global assurance and advisory firm, where he leads the New York and Illinois assurance business units. Prior to this, he has spent over 4 years each with KPMG and Grant Thornton Bharat, working extensively on listed and private company audits, complex accounting matters, and advisory engagements. His professional expertise includes statutory audit, drafting complex accounting policies, limited reviews, agreed upon procedures, and ICFR. He has been closely involved in advising clients on challenging accounting areas such as revenue recognition, leases, classification of debt, and equity instruments, ESOP modifications, and strengthening the operating effectiveness of internal control systems across multiple industries, including manufacturing, FMCG, retail, hospitality, healthcare, IT, and automotive sectors. Through his work, he brings a balanced perspective that combines technical rigor with leadership responsibility, making today's discussion on leadership, growth, and professional balance especially relevant and practical. So, Raghavji, I would like to introduce and open the forum for you. We are looking forward for your deliberation and taking the key inputs for our personal experience as well. Thank you so much, and over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Shivang ji. Thank you so much, Priyamada ma'am, and welcoming everyone to this session. First, I want to apologize. I'm not too well, so I might be muting in the middle and coughing a little bit. But having said that, I think this topic is extremely close to my heart because uh, as chartered accountants, we know that we are always into technical stuff. We're always into auditing, taxation, assurance, technical accounting, etc., etc. But we rarely pause and reflect on these three important parameters, which is leadership, growth, and professional balance. So today's session is basically not doing about less work, working fewer hours or lowering am our ambitions. In fact, it has a very different premise. So it exists because the nature of our professional roles has fundamentally changed. So today, many of us are leading teams much earlier in our careers, carrying responsibilities for people, clients, deadlines, decisions, growing faster than we are given time to process that growth. So we have to pause and reflect actually on these three very important parameters. So today's discussion uh, is deeply connected in three topics, which is leadership, growth, and professional balance. So let's start. I'll if Is the presentation visible?
Not yet.
Not right
Okay,
now. Yeah.
okay. I'll just quickly share my screen. Is it visible now?
Wait. You have to double. Yes, it's
Yes, it's
visible now.
now visible.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we'll structure this discussion in three parts. Leadership, which will basically tell us how leadership actually shows up in our day-to-day professional life. Growth, why growth often feels rewarding on paper, but actually, if it's not done sustainably, how exhausting it can be. And professional balance, which is not as a lifestyle choice, but as a capability that allows us to sustain judgments, people responsibility, and ethics over a long time frame, over long careers. So moving on, what leadership actually means. When we hear the word leadership, most of us subconsciously link it to a title, uh, manager, partner, or a director. But leadership is not a title, it is not a designation, it is not years of experience. It does not begin with authority, right? It begins with influence. So, this is our common notion that, okay, as we keep growing up the ladder, as we keep, rising up the ranks, we will start getting into leadership. Of course, that is an outcome, definitely. However, is that leadership? Maybe not. Whether we like it or not, the moment someone's work quality, confidence, or decision making is being influenced by us, that is when leadership actually begins. So leadership is not a title, it is not a role. It is basically a role, it is not a title, right? So leadership is inspiration plus responsibility. So there are two many important aspects to it. uh, when you are in a position to inspire somebody, when your actions are inspiring people who are working with you, and when you are assuming responsibility, is actually when the leadership begins. So, on the right hand side, if you can see, leadership begins before formal authority. Again, it is not a particular level of experience or a title that when you will reach, your leadership will begin. It is, you are practicing leadership every day, right, in the smallest of tasks. So like leading assignments, leading teams, leading your junior members, leading client conversations, making clients being comfortable, including starting a CA practice. So if right after qualification, if somebody is starting their own practice, you are already a leader, right? So every CA, every chartered accountant is already leading, uh, whether they know it or whether they don't know it. So if a client looks to you for comfort on a complex matter, it is up to you, whether you you have to be panicky on the call or you have to be calm, which will eventually shapes up their response. So the subtlest of things actually has leadership. Your thought, your mindset, which of course we will be, covering in the next slides. The leadership shift. Leadership, like I mentioned, is not an automatic upgrade that comes with experience. It is a proper transition process. If I map a chartered accountant's career into, let's say, three phases, right? So the first couple of years we are always execution focused. We think about the fact that our performance has to be great. We have to basically come out as the top performers. We have to make sure our quality is great. Then when we move on to the mid to senior level, the focus slightly changes. The focus becomes on the team's output, right? So then you are getting defined by the team's output, that if your team is doing well, if your team is focusing on the quality, if your team is focusing on the learning, and if your team is able to basically provide the outputs that you have set for them, is then that's the focus of a mid to senior level. But when we come to the leadership level, right, what is the shift that we have to do? The shift is capability focus, right? So when we talk about capability, it's about the shift that at wherever you are, at whatever stage you are you able to build capability, right, in your team strength? Are you able to think in a forward looking manner? Are you able to vision out the next 1.5 years? Are you able to build strategies for that sustainability? Are you able to bring innovation in your teams, in your practices, in your day-to-day workings, in as small as let's say an audit file? Are you able to bring efficiencies in the processes or the tasks that you are doing? So that is the shift that we all have to do, right? As chartered accountants. And I want to also mention this one very important thing, that there are a lot of people who actually, if guided correctly at the earlier to mid stages of their career, can actually rise up to be great leaders. The problem in our community, what I feel, is that we focus too much onto execution, task, instead a task-based mindset instead of a strategic-based mindset, right? So eventually, slowly and gradually, we have to build our mindsets toward towards growth, towards strategy, towards leadership, right? What is the common trap? Like I mentioned, that even if you are growing, but you are focusing on your own execution, right? If you're focusing on your uh, own output, own quality, what are you? You are nothing more than a top performing junior. Like basically, you're not uh, you're not shifting into being a multiplier, but you are actually a bottleneck for your team. If you're only focusing on your self, right? So this shift is very important for you to enable and build capability, within any sphere that you are operating. As small as that, like for example, if you're a partner and if you insist your teams that, okay, copy me in each and every email, or I want to see what you guys are doing, or keep reporting to me every 2 hours of your output, etc. So it lacks, this signals lack of trust, right? So would the teams be thinking you as a leader? Are you building capabilities? Are you building that independence into them? Maybe not, right? So once we recognize this shift, the next question becomes, what needs to change in the way we think, right? Not what we just do. So that brings me to my next slide, which is a very important fact, which is leadership is a mindset, not a skill set, right? What does it essentially means? That you may have come across a lot of trainers, a lot of people who are doing leadership trainings and who are talking about leadership as a skill set, right? Okay, we will help you build leadership skills, we will help you build leadership skills. But is that actually a skill to build, or is that actually a mindset, right? So the separation between great and average leaders is definitely not skills, right? It is how they think, how they approach different situations, how they approach, when things are not going well, not when things are going well. So, sorry, this is a mindset shift that we all basically have to do, whether you are from, so if you see leadership frameworks across the globe, right? Be it top consulting firm leadership frameworks, if you see academic research papers, or if you see senior partners of senior of big firms, their articles, etc. One insight is absolutely consistent, right? That the difference is not the skill. It is actually how they think when it matters the most. So from I must have answers to I must create clarity, right, is a shift. Avoiding mistakes. So when you say avoiding mistakes, right now, all of us are in a frame that, okay, let's not do this because it'll be risky. We might end up doing it wrong, which might get us in some bad books, which might not look reflect well on our capabilities, on our journeys. But is that leadership mindset? Is that, or the fact that, okay, let's do it, let's try it out. What will happen? We will fail, right? We will learn, but let's try it out. Let's build that capacity within the team which we did not think about earlier, right? My output defines me versus my team's growth defines me. Again, like we discussed, it is no at this role, it is no longer your output, right, which matters. It is about your practices output, it is about your team's output, it is about your team's growth, it is about your client's satisfaction, it is about how you are strategizing different things, how you want to grow, how you want to lead ahead. From pressure drives performance. So again, a very common thing. Okay, if I put a lot of pressure, if I keep being on the head of my juniors, if I keep micromanaging, they will definitely work. Otherwise, if I leave them, you never know, they may not work for the next 2 hours, they may not work for the next 3 hours. uh, so I have to constantly watch that, whether they are working, whether they're not working, right? So is that a leadership trait? Is that even a manager trait? I don't think so. Psychological safety is very important, right? So when you are nurturing, the mindset of a nurturing is basically a leadership mindset. And one thing that I always tell a lot of folks that I interact with, that leadership is a thankless job, right? You are not supposed to do good to others just so you get something in return, even if it's just, a 360 feedback, even if it's just, wow, this XY, you are such a great leader, you did this for me, you did that for me. No, it is our collective duty, right? All of us who are in those roles, who are in on that trajectory of their careers, it is our collective duty and responsibility towards the professions and towards the people who are working with us, to help them feel safe, to help them feel nurtured, and to help them grow, right? So a good point of reflection here: in the last 6 months, has my mindset helped my team feel more confident and empowered? I wish this would have been a platform where we could have interacted live, but I want you guys to please reflect on this question, that in the last 6 months, has there been any team member who's feel more empowered, more capable, more confident, more safe because of, your actions, because of your mindset, right? Another very important thing to note here is that, and this is coming from my personal experience, your people, your teams are observing you 24 into 7, right? They at If you are at a leadership level, your team doesn't just learn what you teach, they actually absorb all what you are, your traits, the way you talk, the way you walk, the way you are taking client calls, the way you are treating juniors, the way you are connected to new joiners, the way you are shaping team strategies, the way you are shaping technical capabilities in your teams or practices. So everything is observed, right? And absorbed by your team members. So this is a very important point to note. Okay. Now, moving on, is there actually a difference between a manager and a leader, right? A lot of us are managers, assistant managers in different firms, in our own practices. We are managing, but are we actually a leader? Leadership and management are, generally often used interchangeably, right? When you say you are a manager or a senior manager or maybe a director or something, but are you a leader, right? But they are not the same things, right? All leaders can have, or they generally have good management skills, right? But not all managers automatically become leaders, right? So leadership mindset can be practiced. So the idea for me to bring out this difference here is both are important, right? It's not that you should not be a good manager or you should only just focus on leadership. You cannot be a good leader if you've not gone through the phase of a manager, right? However, is it possible vice versa? Is it possible that while managing your teams and your practices, can we have the mindset instilled, right? Leadership mindset can be practiced, right? Even as a manager, you can still focus on your manager responsibilities, but the edge, you can take the edge of a leadership mindset, right? So what is the difference? As a manager, your basically primary focus is on tasks, right? Executions, processes, your day-to-day clients, your day-to-day billings, etc. But as a leader, you should have your visions in place. You should have directions in place that, okay, if I have 8 people in my team, what are different directions? How, is everybody aligned to each other? What are their different purposes? Does my team feel that they have a purpose to, work? Short-term deliveries versus long-term growths, right? Again, capabilities, continuities. A manager sources their authority from a position of hierarchy, right? Okay, I'm a manager, so I'm like the big boss or whatever, right? But a leader sources the authority of a from the sources influence, trust, and credibility. So if you are influential, right? If you can influence outcomes, if you can influence organizational thought, if you can influence uh, the people who are working with you in a positive manner, if you can build trust among the people who are working with you below as well as above, right? If you have that, credibility is basically your source of authority. The risk and change factor, right? A manager focuses on minimizing the risks, follows established rules, but a leader always challenges status quo, right? Like I mentioned, works towards innovation, works towards process improvements, works towards efficiency, works towards bettering things that were not thought of a way before, right? And again, for example, I would say that you are, let's say, an assistant manager, right, in an audit team, and you are told by your manager to, okay, do something in an X manner. You have two options, right? To either accept, okay, yeah, I'll do it and give it to him or her, right? Or if you feel, let's assume that you feel that there is a problem with it, or that methodology, etc., or some 2 3 things which are different, which is possible, right? In today's day and age, everything is moving so fast. It's not necessary that your immediate senior knows more than you. It could be some areas where you are way more experienced or exposed. So are you challenging that status quo, that okay, can we do it not this way, but I think this way would be better. Doing it in a man this way would be more efficient, and it'll consume less time. Can we build this automation into a process, etc., etc., etc.? So that is basically, you're already getting into a leadership mindset slowly and gradually, right? So a manager ensures work is getting done correctly, but leaders ensure both, that the work is getting correctly as well as the people who are doing it are growing, right? So a very important thing to note here on this slide, the difference, and again, a reflection point. Uh, what do you want to become? So when we talk about leadership attributes, people often think of the general psyche jo hoti hai that okay, oh wow, he's wearing a great, he has great charisma, he has a great personality, he speaks well, he has great dressing style, etc. Oh, he must be a very senior leader of some place, right? But is that true? Sorry, is that true in professional services, specifically in our profession, right? Leadership does not come from, I mean, personality is an important part, no doubt about it. But is that the only part, right? Or the factors or the attributes that are on your screen are more important and play a bigger role in defining you as an effective leader, right? So, what are those attributes of the effective leaders, right? First is judgment, making sound decisions amidst uncertainty and complexity. Do you have the ability to pause and think properly, not rush into suggestions, not rush into decisions, not rush into providing solutions, but actually evaluate the situation, see from all aspects, evaluate a problem from all aspects, and then make a judgment, right? Consistency, reliable behavior that builds psychological safety. So, what is consistency? A very important trait of a effective leader. Let's say that today you have taken a stand on something X, right? And that stand is not being, appreciated by like three, four other people, and you suddenly change your stance. That, oh yeah, I think that can also be done, etc., etc., right? So your credibility, your consistency, your trust goes for a toss, right? So if you believe into something, right, be extremely believe if you believe into something, be firm about it, right? Yes, you can have different opinions, but don't. My point is, don't keep changing your stands, your viewpoints basis on how people are seeing your viewpoint. So that is a very important factor. Consistency, of course, uh, being able to produce consistent results through your actions, your thinking, your efforts, right? How consistently we are showing up, how consistently we are able to produce things. It's not that, okay, let's say 2 months, okay, Raghav is doing etc., etc., and he's wow, what a way, what great thing he's done. And then the next 4 months, you know, my energy levels, my everything is going down, right? Accountability. Now, this is something which is extremely, extremely important, which is really vital. Uh, a very important trait for a leader is to assume that accountability, to assume that responsibility. Uh, Generally, what we've seen is when things go south, when things are not turning out how we expect them to be, we are always shifting the blame game, right? Okay, if we have given, let's say, a role of issuing a client on a particular deadline, and we are not able to do it, yeah, because that person in my team was not well for 3 days and that took an unplanned leave, or if we are not able to deliver some or produce a good quality, oh, I had passed it on to somebody else for their growth, but they were not able to do it. These are all, trust me, excuses, right? When you are actually at a leadership level, it is your duty, it is your accountability to ensure things are on the right trajectory, things are going down. And the day you start assuming it, people will start respecting you more, right? Gautam Gambhir assumed the responsibility, right, of Team India's failures, right? He faces so much of backlash, but he's still, the head coach, right? Similarly, you have to assume the accountability. Uh, the last attribute, empathy, again, Very, 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 very important, right? Empathy is not leniency. First, understand this, right? Empathy does not mean being lenient towards somebody. It is nothing but understanding the context before making a judgment. Putting your, sorry, putting yourself in other person's shoes in terms, when that person has a problem. It allows leaders to challenge people without breaking them. So, as a leader, you always have two options. So, let's assume a situation where somebody is coming up to you and discussing a problem, right? One way is to, or let's say that again, a client had to be delivered, which is running late, right? And now you feel as a team leader or as let's say practice leader that okay, this very critical client, I don't think it will be able to be that we will be able to deliver it within the next, let's say, 10 days. So what do? Of course, you go to the root cause analysis, right? You do and see where things are going wrong. And you, as let's say that you face or you come up with somebody comes up, you're able to identify basically the issues, right? Somebody, two people in the team had some personal issues. Now, do you scold them at this point in time when the pressure is already on your head, right? Of doing things right, of, again, reversing what was, getting back the lost time or re-strategizing things. Then there's so much of pressure. The client is on your head constantly calling you, what is the status? What is the status? So, typically what you will do is, or, generally what people do is they will, kind of not show empathy at that point in time, blame the person that because of you etc it happened, you are good for nothing, or you do not, you I should never have trusted you, etc etc. But have you even once as a leader heard or understood the context that why that person was not able to do what that person was supposed to do, right? Maybe the issue is very genuine, right? So you have to show empathy towards your teams, you have to show empathy towards your people, right? That is when people will always stay true and loyal to you as well. Okay. So some common pitfalls among chartered accountants. Micromanagement disguised as quality control, right? We do this a lot. We see this a lot happening. So watch out for these common pitfalls, right? As chartered accountants, we equate pressure with productivity. I discussed this in the previous slides. Avoid tough conversations. So we are not doing tough conversations for others with them and for us as well, from with our probably seniors, right? We are not doing it, we avoid it. Keep if what will happen, some feedback will come, and we're always in the denial mode that even if a feedback comes, you're always in the denial mode, right? That no, but this was not the situation, actually it happened that way, you are getting me get wrong, etc etc etc, right? So that has to be avoided. Rewarding only output, no effort or learning. Another very important prevalent thing that is there in many teams, many firms, right? We are not rewarding the efforts. We are not rewarding the efforts that people are putting in to achieve a particular output. We are only rewarding an output. We are only recognizing a person after something has come out right, right? If something has failed, have we ever taken a pause and clapped hand, or kept a team meeting to actually appreciate and acknowledge the effort that that person put in spite of the result not being what we wanted, right? So that is another thing that we should avoid. The last one, a lot of you will resonate, you must have heard it, whether seriously or whether in a joking manner, right? Somebody or the other has said it to you and you have said it to somebody, that I went through it, so they should too, right? So this is something which should be completely avoided. So these are common pitfalls which actually trap you in going up or changing your mindsets, changing your attributes, or cultivating those leadership attributes that can take you to the the higher levels. So like we uh, like we spoke, leadership is a daily choice, right? It's not a one-time role. Uh, one of the biggest misconceptions about leadership is that it's something we become once we reach a certain level. We discussed it in the first slide, right? What do I tell my team? I'll tell you something which is very personal, right? I keep telling my team, irrespective of the level of the person, whether the person is a manager or a senior manager or assistant manager or a senior or an associate, irrespective of the level, right? I always tell my team that leadership is not developed overnight. It is not developed. It is years and years of experience. It is about the way you are shaping yourself right from day one, right? How you're thinking. Yes, you may not be able to build team strategies at this level, right? But you, in your own work, as small as, let's say you're doing a work paper, have you, before doing it, have you thought that one of the objectives of me doing it this year should be to improve what was done previous year, right? Or have you thought, okay, this is how previously, selections or journal entries were being, selected. I can automate it through something like as small as everyday tasks, right? So how you are handling, and if you are at a level, which is fairly senior, how you're handling mistakes, right, is one reflection that we need to do. How success is shared. So I mentioned in the previous slide, are you actually acknowledging those little moments of people's journeys? Are you actually, uh, you know, helping them celebrate their small successes, right? How you provide solutions. Again, very important. Don't be judgmental. Be very clear. Do your research. Have a viewpoint. Stick to it, and provide a solution. Don't rush into it, right? Don't be based on judgments, right? How you conduct conversations and handle difficult conversations. So again, very important part. How you handle difficult discussions or how you conduct conversations is again something, where we can practice daily. Sorry, guys, where we can practice daily leadership, right? So leadership is revealed in the ordinary and the most basic moments, actually, right? In your journeys. So let's do this honest, self-reflection. Uh, am I still operating like a top performing junior, or and who has grown because of my leadership in the last year, right? Again, if the answers make us uncomfortable, that's not a failure. It is just a starting point for you to be aware, for you to start your thinking. So if I'm operating like a top performing junior, the question is that the best use of your role in today's where you are today, right? Okay, but maybe 3 years back, then it was, you know, the best use of your role. But is that the best use of your role today? And who has genuinely grown because of your, leadership in the last year? So not who has delivered more work, not who has stayed longer hours, but somebody who has grown in judgment, who's grown in confidence, who's become more independent, right? Because of the way you are dealing with that particular person, or mentoring that particular person. Great. Now, I think Priyamada ji, if you want, we can take few questions here.
So I would like to invite the audience and the participants to please share some key questions that they have. So we are keeping the discussion on this entire webinar in three parts. So like Sir has been able to give his insights on the first part of this leadership. So before we move on to the growth aspect and take insights on that, I would like to take up a few queries that the members have. And Raghav, if you could just share some insights on them to maybe help understand and take this discussion in a more interactive way.
Perfect. Yeah, I will definitely.
Before I take up the questions, I really appreciate that despite with such health condition also, with you constantly coughing, we really appreciate that you've been able to devote this time and show interest to the best interest of the members and the audience. So we really thank you that you have been able to pull off so nicely.
Thank you so much. But yeah, of course, I mean, our we are there for the members, so I had to do it. So I had to do it. I didn't want to postpone it more further because you know they would probably be waiting for this session. So yeah.
We really appreciate. So we have a query. So I'll just read out the question what the members
Sure.
have to. In the high pressure CA profession, how can inner awareness strengthen leadership and decision making?
So in the pressure CA environment, how can inner
In a high pressure CA profession, how can inner awareness strengthen leadership and decision making?
great.
Inner awareness is the word that has been emphasized on by the query.
Great, great, very good. Now it's a great question, and I want to I want to so I don't re exactly know what chapter is it, but in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, right? So Krishna has described three attributes of the true bhakta, right? Three attributes of somebody who's really dear to him, right? One of those attributes is called Sarvatra Samabuddhya, means you are being, are you tranquil in all situations, right? That is one of the key attributes of a person who's dear to Krishna, right? Now, when you talk about inner awareness, you have to take inspiration for this, self reflect, and see that yes, I have a very high pressure environment. Am I being disturbed by it mentally, right? Am I still being able to be calm under all situations? Am I able to not pass on that pressure or that irritation to the my team below me? So you have to ask those questions internally, constantly, right? Because if it is going wrong, if you do not do it, and if internally things are going wrong, it will eventually either reflect in the in your work, in your output, or your team's satisfaction levels, right? Or your own satisfaction levels, right? So it is extremely important to be aware internally about how you're feeling of a particular situation, how you're feeling in a particular moment, and course correct it. There are different, of course, techniques which we will be discussing in the professional balance section, but uh, very important to be aware how you are reacting to situations. We just keep on doing. But pausing, self reflecting internally, okay, even after you've, let's say, dealt with a particular situation, right? If, let's say, uh, you've held a discussion or you were in a board meeting, for example, right, in a very high pressure environment, can you come out of it? Once you come out of it, can you self reflect and just recap what happened in that meeting, how you could have been better, be better mentally prepared, be more emotionally attached to the topic of that meeting, or be at peace internally, right? And if things did not go well in that meeting, why it did not go well. So the idea is to self reflect at each situation. So slowly and gradually it will keep becoming a habit that these things come naturally to you.
Very well said, Mr. Raghav. So it was also a good insight in another way that the members have been able to learn from. Some of the key takeaways, if I could just summarize from the first section of this webinar that we've had, one thing was very beautifully said was leadership is a journey and not a destination. So it's an ever evolving process, and one needs to constantly reflect on as to how they can do better than what they have been doing to manage a team, to lead, and to ensure that they have been able to deliver the best of the results. So it comes as a journey and not a single destination. So very, very nicely put up. Secondly, one of the another interesting aspect was a leadership is a daily choice. So it's not a one-time role. So
Right.
excellent insights on that particular aspect as well. That it forms a part of the attribute of a professional of following that leadership day in, day out. So perfectly very well said. And lastly, that the entire presentation so far was extremely relevant for we professionals because at every stage, what you were saying, we were able to possibly relate to our daily professional practice and the services that we are rendering also to our clients. So it was extremely relatable and gives us as to how we can do better in following those attributes. To be a leader, we have to be a great manager first, and a leader is far above the manager. So that's a very great insight as well that we have received. If you would like, we can just have a few more queries that's coming up. So before we take up the next section, should we just read out a few more questions? If you
Yeah,
can.
yeah, perfect, perfect. We can go ahead with with about one or two more questions, and then we can proceed with the content.
We have a query from Mr. Tushar. He is putting up that what practical steps can a CA take to manage stress during peak work cycles without affecting performance? I can just read out the question if you would like.
No, no, I got it. So
Okay.
basically, Tushar, again, a very important question, and we would be definitely covering it in the professional balance section. But uh, when you talk about practical steps to manage stress, हम यार मजाक बनाते हैं, to be honest, meditation का. I'll be very honest with you. ठीक है? Specifically the young generation, who will go into meditation, वह क्यों करना है, etc. बाबाओं के काम होते हैं, etc. It is not linked to any religion. It is not linked to any particular set of practice, right? So meditation is very important when you are dealing, when you are a part of a profession such as CA, right? You have constant deadlines, constant new engagements, pressure of growth that we would be discussing in the next section, you know. So managing stress is nothing but being balanced properly, right? The practical steps can be one, meditation, definitely physical activity is extremely important, right? Creating boundaries, etc. uh, you know in your daily routine, so that two three things are very important in managing stress, and they will help you out. So there are a lot of techniques available, for learning meditation, or being, as simple as just normal breathing techniques, right? As normal pranayams. So please be aware of those and do that. It will really help you in managing your stress.
Thank you so
Hmm.
much. We have one more query from Mr. If we can just take one more query before we move on to the next section. So we have a query from Mr. Pavan. His question is that, do you agree with me that simple accounting or auditing is not going to help for the leadership role? What should be the action plan?
So when you say simple accounting, it means that you know simple accounting, and maybe you will not be able to be a leader. I'm assuming that's the question is. Uh, who sent this question,
Mr. Pavan Deora.
Mr.
Mr. Pavan Deora has put up the question. I'll just read it
Okay,
out.
got it, got it. So
Okay.
Pavan, again, my point to you would be that, we are thinking again in a very constructive manner, right? Leadership is, you cannot do leadership only on the basis of technical knowledge, like I said, right? And we are going into the next level as well. So growth also does not happen only on the basis of your technical knowledge. So let's say that if today you are saying that I only know simple accounting, but let's say 4 years down the line, you know the most complex accounting, right? You are the best, technical accounting expert available in your region, city, country. You, it's not necessary that you will still be considered as an effective leader, right? You have to understand that technical knowledge is very important, but it is only a very small part of the entire journey, right? How you develop as a person, how you are able to instill those attributes consistently in your journey about, not being judgmental, credibility, trust, visionary, innovation, uh, empathy. All those things will matter more at a leadership level than your technical knowledge. And that is actually the fact. Any other questions, Shivang?
So we have the questions so far that we've been able to take up. So I would suggest if maybe we can proceed with the section 2, and then the other queries can be taken up maybe towards the end of the
Perfect.
webinar.
Yeah, I think that will be great. Perfect. Let's
So
move.
at this point, I would just request all the participants that there is a survey, there's a feedback option also available at the bottom of the screen of the page that you have been logged in. So you can share your feedback with us regarding any such topics that should be taken up, or about the overall webinar that is ongoing. That will help us create more meaningful and interactive sessions for the members. Over to you, sir, for the section 2.
Great. I hope my screen is still visible, right,
Yes, it's visible.
Shivang?
Please.
Great.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay. So when we talk about growth, right, what growth really means for us CEOs, right? Is it designation? Is it pay? Or is it, being or working in a bigger firm, a bigger brand name, right? When we talk about growth, trust me, and again, be honest to yourselves, majorly people talk about these two, three factors only, right? ओके वाह यार उसको देखो वो तो आज मैनेजर बन गया उसकी सीटीसी मुझसे आज 30% ज्यादा है सेम लेवल पर है हम फलाना 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 करेक्ट दिस इज व्हाट हैपेंस राइट या उसने जॉब चेंज करी है एंड सो इंस्टिंक्टिवली वी थिंक ऑफ दीज वेरी विजिबल मार्कर्स राइट प्रमोशंस उसको बड़ा क्लाइंट मिला है वो आई एम श्योर ही इज इन द गुड बुक्स ऑफ द मैनेजमेंट बिकॉज ही इज गॉट अ बिगर क्लाइंट टू वर्क ऑन ही इज वर्किंग ऑन अ लिस्टेड क्लाइंट एटसेट्रा राइट बट there is nothing wrong with these things, but these are all outcomes, right? These are not growth itself. Growth, we will discuss later on in a couple of slides, is not these outcomes. We mistake these, right? Growth means how you are being able to develop yourself. So your higher designation or a higher pay is an outcome of the technical growth, right? That you would be doing for yourself. Your bigger firm size is again the outcome of the capability that you have been able to build for yourself, right? So growth also has to be seen in two parallel pillars. Uh, responsibility towards others and self growth, right? So we spoke about self growth, but can we ignore the responsibility that we all hold towards others for the people we all lead, right? Like I mentioned at the start of the presentation, right? It is our collective duty to nurture the people who we are leading, to help them develop. So that is also a very important pillar of growth. So when I see growth for myself, I always see it for self, definitely, and along with that, how am I able to contribute in the growth journeys of other people, right? Now many chartered accountants actually reach a point in their careers, right, where on paper everything is looking good, right, where your designation is improving, your like we discussed, your compensation is improving, your responsibility or role or etc, everything is growing, uh, but internally there is something that is feeling off, correct? You are not satisfied internally, right? With the designation improvements, the time pressure is also increasing. Uh, mental load is never off. You're always, our brains are always continuously working, continuously. When we are going to sleep, I see a lot of people who, in their normal conversations tell, अरे कल तो मुझे उसका सपना आया, मैं तो एक वर्क पेपर बना रहा था और मैं तो etc. So mentally we are always kind of working, right? When your responsibility multiplies because of your outcome of your growth, you start feeling being behind because there are so many things. Okay, ये भी मुझे करना है, 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 but you are feeling behind. You're feeling burdened instead of being happy. At a point you wanted that, but now that because you have it, you're feeling unhappy, right? So what is this? This is actually not a failure, right? It is just a byproduct of unstructured growth process that you probably or possibly would have experienced, right? It is not something which you've experienced as a sustainable growth, right? So to navigate this paradox, we need to rethink what growth actually consists of. And uh, it turns out it's more than just technical excellence, like one of the questions, right, that I received. So it's more than just technical excellence. So growth, self, basically self-sustainable growth has three dimensions, right? One is, the first dimension is capability growth. So the paradox that we discussed, it will not happen if a person or if a chartered accountant is actually growing in all these three dimensions simultaneously. We've always heard this, that okay, he got a promotion or he's gone up the ladder, but he's not able to perform that role. Why is that? That a title promotion has happened, but the person is still not fully fit into that role, because the person did not actually focus on the three pillars, right? Or the three dimensions of sustainable growth. Either the person only focused on technical skills, or the person only focused on, how do I be more visible, or how do I feel influential, or how do people feel influenced by me, etc., etc. But real growth happens, guys, when we are actually focusing on all the three dimensions. You will feel happy, because if you are working on these three dimensions and you growing, it is, if somebody asks you that question, that, hey, do you deserve this role, you will say, of course I deserve this role, right? Because you've grown in all three dimensions, right? So capability growth is very important, where you are supposed to build your technical skills. Very important. Like I said, it's just one part. Professional judgment and complexity handling. So a technically brilliant manager uh, can still struggle, right, to prioritize or delegate, or or make good judgments, right, under pressure, just because he has a technical skills. No. So capability again is divided into three parts. You have to build your technical skills, very important. So take out some time every day. I tell people, small steps matter, right? So take out 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes every day. It's not much. Even if you are able to, if you are, let's say, an accountant, even if you are able to read four pages of a technical accounting standard, or let's say a big four, or a good guidelines or a good commentary on some standard, right? Just 4 pages in one day. You will imagine you would have read 120, 150, 180 pages after a month, right? So you are already in that journey. So technical skills, professional judgment, you're handling complexities, right? The second pillar comes as influence growth, right? Now, influence is not about uh, you know you being able to overpower people, right? Influence is about how your voice is actually carrying weight, right? Not because of your designation, again, not because of your title, but because of your credibility, because of the trust you've been able to build, because of the stands and the stands that you've been able to take. So that growth dimension is also very important. The third, and a very important, like, in fact, one of the most important dimensions, I would say, is the identity growth, and it is the most neglected, right? What is identity growth? Is choosing what you want to be known for, basically, right? Saying no selectively, referring reflecting at your career inflection points, right? So at each point in your career, wherever you are right now, do you have a purpose defined? Have you defined yourself? How do you want to be known after 5 years, or after you, let's say, 2 years after you switch your teams, or you switch your jobs, or you get into a new service line, or you finish a client, or you finish a project? How do you want to be known by that project management, that client, that your teams, your what is the definition that you want to carry for yourself? So very important for you to self-reflect, right? These things, aligning values, the values that you've learned throughout your career. Uh, is your thought process actually aligned to those, right? So when these all these three dimensions actually, one is growing in, one has to grow in all these three dimensions, right? Not just one dimension, right? If any of this dimension stops, trust me, your growth will stop, right? Things will become heavier on you. You might be able to carry on till a certain level, but beyond that, you will not be able to do it, right? And that is exactly why many chartered accountants uh, experience a mid-career plateau, right? So capability makes you competent, influence makes you relevant, and identity keeps you grounded, right? So please keep this in mind, these three dimensions of growth, right? Sorry, guys. Wanted to discuss some, mid-career plateaus as well. Why many chartered accountants plateau mid-career, like I mentioned, we are not focusing on all the three dimensions, right? We are either focusing on identity, or we are focusing on influence, or we are focusing on, the capability part of it, right? Therefore, the mid-career plateaus are extremely common, right? Not because professionals are, they're stopped trying, but because the nature of growth has changed, right? And our approach always, doesn't change. So you have to understand that as the nature of profession changes, as the nature of work changes, we have to change our approach, right? Yes, maybe 10 years or 20 years or 15 years before today, only technical excellence was, good enough to make you shine, right? But it's not today. It's definitely not today, right? Maybe being the go-to person for complex tax matters, or for, transfer pricing, uh, was the thing that was really sought after, but it's not today, right? So why do chartered accountants plateau mid-career? Four main things. One is the over-rely on technical excellence. Technical excellence is very important. I'm not denying it. It has to, it is something that you should do every day of your life, right? New learnings, new technical topics, etc. But don't be over reliant on it. Don't think that only technical competence can take you far in your careers. It's a very short-sighted and a very closed thought if you're thinking in that manner. Staying in familiar roles, another very important thing that I notice in people's careers, they do not want to come out of their comfort zones, right? They want to keep doing things that they're doing year on years. Okay, if you are good at auditing, they don't want to move to, let's say, doing work on business combinations. If they are good in business combinations, they don't want to try out, uh, you know, a not-for-profit client, for example. They don't want to audit a not-for-profit client. If they are doing things which are working for them till an extent, right? They're not thinking on growth. They're not thinking on their own growth. They're not thinking on their team's growth, right? So stop staying in familiar roles. Start challenging the status quo. Start thinking about, how you can do more than what you have already been doing, right? So it's going to be very important. Avoidance of difficult conversations, again, very important. That like I mentioned, we do not get into difficult conversations, right? We do not seek feedbacks for ourselves. Yeah. I mean, this is the basic thing that all of us as chartered accountants should do, right? Without fear of what is going to come our way, right? We should we should not avoid difficult conversations. Uh, Seek feedbacks about how you've performed, how from your clients, from your seniors, from even from your juniors as well. That is there something that I need to change in the style of my managership, in the style of my mentorship, in the style of my leadership, right? So don't avoid these difficult conversations for yourself. And then lack of intentional career design, right? So even today, if I ask 10 people, what do you want to do with your careers? Which direction do you want to, take your careers? only one or two people are able to answer. Rest just, "Oh, I want to be a great chartered accountant, I want to be a great auditor, I want to be a this, that," right? But is that actually your career design that you want? No. So these are the four major things linked to the dimensions that we spoke before, right? Of why chartered accountants are actually plateauing mid-career. So they come up to a certain level but are not able to break that barrier, right? To move on to the next senior levels, right? So at this stage, and sorry guys, as you know, growth happens as your influence increases, right? Especially towards the people who work with us. So it is extremely important as one of our main core areas to help out others, right? So that brings us to the next part uh, of this conversation, which is growth is actually expanding your responsibility, right? It is, you have to play. So till now we had covered the self growth role. Now we are moving on to one slide towards your role, our role, all of us's role in developing others, right? So by the general rule of thumb, all two-third, general two-third conversations that you have one-on-one with your juniors, should be about future career growth, not tasks, right? So mentorship is actually not about tasks. It's about building tomorrow's leaders today, right? So we are going to discuss few things on how we can actually contribute in somebody else's journey, how we can actually uh, help them grow in their roles, how we can make them more independent, how we can make them more, capable, right? So firstly, look beyond gold sheets. So most of us, if you're all working in an organization, right, which has goals in place, it does not matter whether you have a formal goal sheet or whether you have just set goals for your team members verbally or on an email or on a piece of paper, right? But when you're having conversations with them, are you really looking beyond goal sheets? Are you only focused about, okay, oh yeah, you were supposed to come to office for 20 days, you came only for 17 days, where were you there 3 days? Or I've been keeping a track, you are logging off very early on Teams. So why is that happening? You're not meeting that goal. Or you had been given a goal to, let's say, attend these trainings. Why were you not in those trainings, right? So are those conversations enough, or you have to go beyond the goal sheet? So you have to go beyond the goal sheets, right? You have, in your conversations, it is very important for you to speak about what is the long term aspiration of your junior. भाई वो क्या चाहता है? What do you want to do in life? What are you here for? What are you working for? What do you want to develop as a skill, right? What can I do for you? So all these questions are very important, right? When you are, and problem with our profession is this only, to be honest, or at least was this till few years back, that we were always focused on the tasks. यार वो काम हो गया, वो वर्क पेपर बन गया, तुम्हें 9 बजे की डेडलाइन दी थी, इट्स स्टिल नॉट हैपेंड, एटसेट्रा 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 एटसेट्रा, राइट? We've never, as mentors, we've never treated ourselves as mentors. We've always treated ourselves as managers. We've not treated ourselves as somebody who's actually being a, that every moment that you are being able to influence somebody else, whether knowingly or unknowingly, right? So you go beyond goal sheets, tailor individual growth plans. So if you have 10 people in your team, come out of that mindset that, okay, for those 10 people, this is the growth plan. No, every person is different. Every person has different capabilities. Every person is on a different trajectory. Every person wants to develop differently. So it is your duty as a person who has people below you working for you to ensure that individual growth plans are there for everybody who's working with you, right? Work closely on development points. Not necessary. So you can say that, yeah, we discuss what do you really are your developing points, but do you actually work closely on them? Working closely does not mean just identifying those development points and giving them, okay, you are You have to identify, you have to work on your communication. So please do this. I've realized that you lack prioritization skills, so please do that. Is that the working closely on development points? Maybe not, right? It is following up as well. So if, for example, if you say that, okay, I have somebody in your team has a problem with prioritization of tasks, you provide them a training platform. Do you monitor after that? That, okay, has that person even learned something from the training? Is that person able to apply it in their daily lives, right? So working closely means being able to execute, right, with that person, cultivating expertise again, what your experience has been over the 4, 5, 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, right? Exchange those skills, knowledge and perspective. Very important to share that. Don't hold it to yourself. There could have been a situation where, because of you were guided correctly, you had a lot of expertise, but you expect the same from somebody else. But before that, guide that person, right? You have to exchange those ideas, those skills, those knowledge, spend some time, invest in people, right? So if it, it, you cannot just say that, okay, this is a training, see, okay, for example, if an audit binder, there is a planning section, right? Just because you've theoretically told the person what planning section looks like, is it sufficient? Maybe not. Maybe the person is just a fresher. He does not even know what audit is, right? So spend some time with that person, open each and every work paper, go through what is required, tell the person what you need to think, what mindset you have to keep when you are doing this. So that is what is basically cultivating expertise, right? Give stretched opportunity. So all of us see, or all of us have people in our teams who are willing to go the extra mile, right? So it is again our duty to provide them those opportunities to test those different additional things that they want to do. So somebody who's a good auditor may also have, a great, let's say, project management skills, right? Or a great presentation skills, right? For example, and but they've not got the opportunity to work on a PPT, right? So is it your duty to actually give them those test opportunities? You have to push boundaries for them and expand their comfort zones with, of course, being a support. It's not that you just, throw them into the dark that, okay, now do this. You wanted to do this, now do this. Great. No, but be there to support if things fail, right? Then again, longitudinal tracking. So keep recalibrating and regular check-ins. We've seen in the past, not in the past, sorry, we see every day in our firms that are actually your seniors having regular conversations with you, or you are having your regular conversations with your juniors. It is only maybe 2 or 3 times a year, right? Every quarter end, or maybe in a mid-year cycle, or maybe year-end appraisals. It does not suffice, right? True mentorship has to be connected. You have to build that trust with your juniors, right? They have to be open in confiding in you, right? And how will they do it? When you be regularly connected to them, not just only to do their appraisals, right? So these 4, 5, 6 things are very important from a developing others standpoint, right? I've put in a practical example as well. So you can follow this grow framework, right? It is a very powerful and a very common and a very well-known framework in the global coaching and mentoring frameworks world, where if you have to structure out your one-on-one conversation, so do it on the GROW model, where you are actually, one is that, so first you are asking the person, right? Like we discussed, what do you want to do? What are your goals? What do you feel like doing this year or the next year or then in the next few years, right? Then checking the reality, review the situation with that person to see that whether that person has those capabilities to do. Is there some roadblock that you need to remove as a as a mentor, as a counselor, as a career advisor, as a leader, as a manager? Do you have Is there something, a roadblock that you have to remove for that person? So review that situation and barriers, brainstorm ideas. So then sit with that person, brainstorm ideas on how that person can achieve those goals. What needs to be done? What are the technical things that that person needs to achieve? What are the soft skills that that person needs to achieve, etc.? And then have have the person commit to those specific action, and again evaluate it. So path the way forward, and again longitudinal tracking, like I said, after some time, go into recalibration, check with that person where that person has reached, right? So this is a very important framework that we can use, important things that we can keep in our mind when we are actually, in a role where people are working below us, because we owe it to them. Yeah, that's the least that we owe it to them, right? Okay, so like I mentioned, when we talk about growth, it's easy to treat it as a reward, but I know, the perspectives, I hope the perspectives have changed, right? It's not just reward, it is a responsibility, right? Uh, as you grow up the ladder, as you grow to senior levels, right, growth stops just being a reward. It becomes a responsibility. Like I mentioned, you should invest in someone. Uh, don't don't expect something. Don't spend time or invest in somebody only to expect something in return, right? It is our collective duty to shape up people who are working with us and who are looking up to us. So there's a warning that growth that ignores balance becomes exhaustion, right? Like we saw, if we are balanced and growing in all three dimensions, it's fine. Otherwise, it just becomes exhaustion. And balance that ignores growth becomes stagnation. So when you have to come out of your comfort zone, uh, and that is when the real growth happens, actually. Okay, so with this, I end the growth section. Moving into professional balance, right? So what actually is professional balance, right? We've discussed so much about leadership, we've discussed so much about growth, but what exactly is professional balance, right? When you are able to strike a balance between your career demands, between your hectic schedules, your stressful lives, and your personal life, right? Are you ignoring your family, friends, not taking self-care, or are engaged, or are not being able to fulfill your hobbies? Maybe then the balance is somewhere not right. There is some it's tilting more towards your career demands, right? So the balance has to be perfect, right? It has to be an equilibrium between career demands and personal life activities for your overall well-being. Yeah. Everything has to be done in moderation, right? uh, there is an old saying in Hindi. I don't know how many people have heard it or not, but अति हर चीज की बुरी होती है, right? So excess of everything is bad. So if you are just focusing on career demands, your personal life is going to go for a toss. And vice versa as well. If you are only focusing on your personal life, or you have those set rules, नहीं नहीं यार मुझे तो रोज 4 बजे काम बंद करना है क्योंकि मेरे को पिकल बॉल खेलने जाना है, मुझे क्रिकेट खेलने जाना है, etc. You are then ruining your professional life, right? So there has to be a very good balance between both. Why is actually balance becoming very difficult these days, right? There has been a paradigm shift, we all know, right, in the last 15, 20 years. A lot of technology has come in. The way we are doing things have changed, the way our roles, our profession, even our curriculum, our client natures, our work deliveries, everything has changed, right? So why it is becoming difficult? Because now we have very blurred boundaries, right? We do not have boundaries between our work and personal time. We are 24 into 7 accountable of things, right? When we leave office, while coming also, we are thinking, oh, we forgot to message that person, oh, we forgot to take that call, okay, I'll do it once I'm home, I'll do it this, that, etc., right? So that keeps on happening. Success compounding, so it brings more responsibility, right? So as you grow, like we discussed, as you grow up the ladder, more responsibilities keep coming on your head. Seasonality, there is recurring seasonality of things. So एक चीज खत्म होती नहीं कि दूसरी start हो जाती है. So audit season, then tax season, then your etc. It keeps on coming, right? The expectations of your clients and stakeholders have changed nowadays. So we are all feeling that excessive workload. So these are some common, things why we are facing these, that our professional balance is missing, right? Now, before we move further, I also want to take on this concept of work-life balance, right? We discussed कि यार if we think that okay, every day we'll exit the office at 4 or 5 o'clock, is that the right approach? No, that's not the right approach. So what is work-life balance? People tell us no, work-life balance is that you work 9 to 5 only. No, that is not work-life balance, my friends. Our profession is not made up as such, right? So balance is not equal to, specific hours between work and life, or that okay, I'm only going to work from 9 to 5, rest I'm not going to work. It is not reducing ambition or responsibility. This is again a lot of things that we hear, right? That यार तो अब if you just because now that you are so ambitious, so you have to bear the brunt, right? So work-life balance is also not reducing ambition. Work-life balance is also not absence of stress. Stress will always remain, right? It's stress cannot go out. It's about how you manage it, right? So what exactly is actually work-life balance is sustaining performance without depletion. uh, how we are able to constantly, continuously perform without being burnt out, without being, without feeling depleted, uh, managing pressure without losing judgment. Like somebody asked the question about inner awareness, right? So how you're able to, when there is the pressure is very high, how you're still able to turn inwards, be calm, and not lose your sense of correct judgments, right? Recovering without disengaging from career goals. So you don't have to lower down your ambitions. You don't have to, set your professional life aside, right? So you don't have to disengage from your career goals. So that is actually work life, balance. Very important that what are certain signs of burnout and behavioral drift, right? So why I got this here is because we don't generally see these signs. You never know, it may be happening with you, but we are not cognizant of that fact, right? That it is actually happening. So burnout rarely announces itself. It leaks through behavior. So there could be cognitive signs where you may realize that there has been slower or poor judgment making in your you know profession, in your day-to-day affairs or activities, right, regarding some situations which have been complex. There could be difficulty in prioritizing tasks effectively, increasing rework or constant second guessing, right? So when all these things are happening, understand the signs, right? There could be a situation where you are actually feeling burnt out and there is a change in behavior, right? What are the behavioral signs? Your patience level goes lower, right? And there are more sharper reactions to minor issues. The team members are coming with, let's say, conflict within the team, and you are not being able to handle it well. You are not being able to handle it with patience, with full facts, etc. And you just being dismissive or being rude, etc. Right? Avoidance of difficult conversations or decisions again. Just going where the life is taking you, in your comfort zone, working longer hours with diminishing returns. So you know that you're constantly working 10, 12, 13 hours a day, but the output is not reflective of the hours that you've put in, right? There are some emotional signs as well, that emotional distancing or growing cynicism, that you are constantly complaining, in a constantly complaining mode, right? ये ठीक नहीं है, वो ठीक नहीं है, the structuring is not right, that training was not good, the trainer was not good, the increments were less, the goals are not good this year, etc., etc., right? Reducing empathy towards teams or clients, again this somewhat similar as a behavioral sign. And then irritable, that you start feeling more irritable. You start getting more irritated on small things. So these are certain signs where we see the burnouts. Now, anchors for professional balance, right? We've discussed about certain burnouts. Now, what you should do actually to avoid those burnouts and to actually balance, have a professional balance, right, in your careers, right? These are principles actually, right? These are not practical tips right now. These are first principles. He what your what should be your principle in your mind about professional balance, right? So one is autonomy and independence, right? So you should define your own work hours, your goals, your methods, right? So you have to be autonomous, you have to be independent. Energy management, right? So there do tasks that require more work during your energy peak time, right? And vice versa. So do that energy management on for you. Recovery and reflection, right? So set clear boundaries again, with teams and clients to unwind. Prioritization, structure what needs to be done. Don't do everything one yourself, right? So you have to delegate as well. Don't do everything yourself. You have to structure your uh, the tasks that you have in your hand. So that is very, very, very important. And then seasons management. So 80% work and 80% so what is seasons management is that it's not 50-50, that okay, 50-50 work, 50 work, 50 personal life. No, you have to understand that sometimes can require 80% of your time towards your projects, teams, like let's say client deadlines are coming, your busy seasons are there, etc. And sometimes those and the lean periods, it could be vice versa, that 80% or 60% of the time you're giving to your personal, you're taking long breaks, you're taking long vacations, right? So those are some anchors. I think I skipped one slide, right? Now, practical techniques, right? We've discussed the principles on, which we all should ideally, the practical techniques that we all should actually focus on. And for professional balance, right? So we've discussed the anchors. We are going towards the practical techniques, right? So mindful micro breaks. So you have to have like I mentioned to somebody, right, that you have to have breaks in the middle. You have to have 10 minutes, 15 minutes, mindful breathing breaks in the middle, whenever you want to, in your daily life. So that should actually be a very important key. Energy-based blocking. Schedule high complexity tasks during your, energy peaks, right? Or when you are fresh during the day. So you have to, again, note that, you have to manage energy constructively, right? So whatever are your energy peak periods, you should know about that. Whatever are your energy peak periods, and you have to manage that. Uh, manage tasks, prioritize tasks according to those. Digital digital boundaries, very very important. We don't know how much time we are spending, right, on our mobile phones, on our tablets. It's not just work related applications. It's also social media, right? We are spending a lot of time there. So have those boundaries for yourself. I know people who are on, various social media platforms till 11 o'clock in the night, 12 o'clock in the night, 1 o'clock in the night. And then they say that, we were not able to sleep well, we are tired, etc. So who was who is at fault there, right? Is the person who's actually not creating boundaries for themselves, is a person who's not actually saying that, okay, I'm back now, 10 o'clock, okay, I'll go through 1.5 hours, it's fine. At 10 o'clock I will switch off my mobile phone, right? I am not kidding. I'm telling you, I personally cannot sleep if my mobile phone is not on flight mode, right? Now that's the habit. I have to keep my mobile phone on flight mode if I sleep, before I sleep, right? Otherwise, I cannot sleep. I do not want those disturbances, those notifications, right? Movement integration, another very important practical technique. Uh, Please, so if you're on a call, right? Generally, as chartered accountants, we are not able to actually, we should, but we are not. A lot of us are not able to take out time for physical activities, right? But the least you can do is if you're on a call, you can do a walking call, right? If you're in a meeting, you can walk if you're leading the meeting, of course. You can, keep on, walking. Do some stretchings in the middle. A lot of experts tell us that when we are sitting on a laptop for a long time, after every hour or so, we should do some stretching exercises, right? So these are all physical important things, or do some neck rotation. So yes, सुनने में बहुत छोटा लगता है यार, but it is very very important. It when you do these regularly, it will actually collectively show a very good impact on your professional life, right? One was meditation that I spoke about right earlier. Very important to be mindful, very important to be mentally calm, right? uh, just only by slowing down your breathing, you can achieve that calmness. Just by slowing down normal, we're not aware of our breaths, right? We don't realize how we are breathing. Just slow down the rhythm of your breath, and you'll notice after 5-10 minutes you will start feeling more energetic. You will start feeling, calmer, right? And then social connection, very important. uh, Man is a social animal, everybody knows, right? So actively engage in your friends, actively engage in, have the weekends to yourself, actively engage in discussions, meaningful discussions, uh, happy moments. We don't know, we think that अरे अगले हफ्ते मिल लेंगे, 10 दिन बाद मिल लेंगे. But that one hour of meeting your old friends can actually change a lot for the next 20 days, right? So very important again, uh, from a practical standpoint. Okay, so I think so this is the last slide. And again, I want to apologize everybody because of my condition. But if there is one takeaway from today, I would want to say that leadership is basically defines how we motivate others, how we influence others, how we're able to take the right decisions. Growth defines what we carry, right? And balance defines how we can do both very well, right? So I open the floor, and I hope that there have been few key takeaways. We all, as professionals, will start thinking in a different dimension, in a different direction of how to perceive our journeys. What is our responsibilities? How can we change our thinking? So I just hope that from this session, uh, a lot of you would be going on to that path. If you, of course, we are opening the floor, but if the time, whenever we exit, if you still have any questions, email them to me and connect with me on LinkedIn. If you have any questions there, I'll be happy to answer there. So thank you so much. And yeah, over to the moderator.
Thank you so much, Mr. Raghav, for sharing such insights. I'm sure this has moved the participants, and the idea of this entire presentation has made the participants think and reflect on the points that you have shared. So I believe that was very much essential, which is why we have a flood of responses. We have a flood of questions that they would like you to maybe answer and spare some time. I really
Absolutely,
appreciate.
Shivangji. I um I really appreciate your patience. I know I've not been at the best of my delivery mode right now, but I just hope I've been able to just strike a single chord. That was my intention when I, was setting this content up for our professionals. That's it.
We have all been really moved with some of the great insights that you have shared, and we would love to hear some more of your response on the queries that I would be now be putting up. So we have one query from Mr. Ankush. How can young CA build emotional resilience early in their careers?
Okay. So, emotional resilience, Ankush, you you touched a very important part, right? It is very important. uh, and this is something जो कि बाद में नहीं आएगी. It will not be developed at a later stage of your life, right? So it's very important to build emotional resolve, emotional resilience at the start of your career. Be emotionally intelligent. Now, how can you build it? Again, there is no, it is not a, there are no practical steps कि आप ये करोगे ये करोगे ये करोगे तो आप emotionally resilient हो जाओगे, right? It is about your, what you tell your mind, what you tell your brain, right? About how you are being able to control your mind, right? So if there is a situation which is affecting you emotionally, right? Can you actually tell your brain that no, I will not let it affect me? हाँ यार, मतलब हो गया मेरी, if you're not at fault, right? I'm not at fault, right? And at that point, or for example, let's say a young chartered accountant has had a breakup, for example, right, with his girlfriend, and you're emotionally very distressed, right? Why can't you just tell your mind to say that no, I am not going to let it affect me. I'm not going to let it affect my daily routine. I'm not going to let it affect me professionally. I'm not going to let it affect me personally. The way I talk to my parents, the way I talk to my juniors, the way I talk to my seniors, the way I, go to the office and, behave there. So, emotional resilience, restraint, resilience, all these things happen when you seek inwards, when you start speaking to yourself and not just being loose जो हो गया and not letting that situation affect you.
Very interesting to hear that. I have a query from Mr. Ashwin, who says, what daily habits would you recommend for maintaining professional balance amid deadlines and regulatory demands?
So Ashwin, I will tell you like what I covered as well. There will be phases where you have deadlines, where you have professional demands, right? Do you need to maintain balance there, or you want to, or do you need to shift your balance there towards the work? You will answer it yourself, right? Work-life balance, professional balance is not a daily, it's not that, it's not a set rule of thumb कि यार 9 से 5 ही काम करूंगा उसके बाद मैं करूंगा ही नहीं, right? You have that 1 month 2 month of a deadline period. You work towards it ना यार, work towards achieving those promises that you've done to your client, work towards, even if it means working late hours, right? But when that 2 month period or 1.5 to 2 month period is over, then take a long break, right? Take a 15-day break, take a 20-day break, right? So work-life balance, professional balance is a very subjective concept. It's not a one size fits all. Somebody might want to practice the first part, right? Somebody might want to say that, okay, these 1.5 2 months are very crucial for me to be at my best, to be fully absorbed in my work. I will deliver what I have to, and then go on a longer break for 20 days, right? Nobody's stopping you. So that is a question that I put back to you, right? In your deadline season, in your daily, what you mentioned, amid deadlines, right? I don't think you need to maintain your too much of professional balance. You should be leaning towards actually work deliveries. But yes, you have to keep yourself sane. You cannot, like I mentioned, you cannot be fluttered and perturbed by the situation that is happening, right? You have to be sane, you have to work more, but be calm, right? And the professional techniques, like, and then the techniques that I mentioned are these only, that you have to, engage in some, take out 15 minutes of meditation, take out 20 minutes of physical exercise time, and that's it. 40 minutes of the day, if you're doing it, you're fine, good to go.
Right. We have a query from Mr. Nikhil. How can mindful practices support long-term growth and ethical clarity for CAs?
From Shivang, who was this?
This is Nikhil.
Nikhil. Okay, great. Hi, Nikhil. So you said, how can mindful practices, lead
Support.
to support?
Support long-term growth and ethical clarity. Ethical
Great.
clarity is also added to the question.
Okay, great. So Nikhil, when you're, like I said, when your mind is at the right place, when you're not thinking negative things, when you are thinking, more positive things, when you're mindful of your situations. So I'll give you an example of mindfulness. Okay, right. Uh, let's say I'm a person who is not having the best of time in office. For example, right? Maybe my seniors are not giving me responsibilities, maybe my juniors are not respecting me, etc. And I'm not able to accept it. I'm accepting नहीं कर रहा हूँ mentally, right? I'm not mindful about the fact that I am at that stage or that bottleneck and I need to change something, right? You have to be mindful. You have to be realistic about where you are, uh, how your mind is actually being again calm in all situations. That is the key, right? All your mindful practices are aimed towards nothing but peace, right? Peacefulness, calmness, ability to think better, ability to perform better. So yeah, when you we are doing these mindful practices, right, your sharpness increases automatically, your recall value, like things you recall better because you're engaging in those techniques. Uh, your ability, in fact, it's not just about thinking. Trust me, your ability to speak will also increase, right? Your ability from your throat chakra will also increase, right? So these are all, uh, you know, and if when once these things happen, let's say you're able to, speak well, you become a good orator. You're able to think very clearly and sharply. You're able to recall and remember things. You're able to provide solutions. Long-term growth or kya hai yaar? It's already linked to these factors only, right? So therefore, it mindfulness helps in these ways to build these characteristics, and then it is supported your basically long-term growth and ethical clarity both.
Right. I'll just take one more query. This is from Sanchi. Her question is, how can consistent self-care practices improve professional excellence and sustainability?
So consistent self-care practices improve.
Professional excellence and sustainability.
Okay, so by self-care, Sachi, I'm assuming you're meaning uh, h- spending time on yourself, and that's what I'm assuming, right, with this question, that taking care of yourself, right? So, sustainability and professional, Shivang, can you just
Excellence,
repeat?
professional
Excellence,
excellence and
excellence.
sustainability.
Great. Okay. So professional excellence and sustainability again. Self-care. So when you're spending time on yourself, Sachi, you are taking a pause. You are taking a step back and reflecting, right, on all what we've discussed in this entire 1.5 hours, right? You are taking a step back to see the direction in which you are going. You are taking a step back to see what you want to do ahead, right? That is a very important part of self-care. When you are indulging in health practices, when you're indulging in meditations, you are again getting your clarity of thought from there. You're getting your directions from there, right? So self-care practices are very, very, very important for professional excellence, because once you indulge into those things, it will not let you go wrong. ठीक है? आप गलत नहीं जाओगे फिर. The idea is to stay on the right path, which will then, you know, eventually, culminate into your professional excellence and your sustainable growth. So, so that I hope that answers uh, that how can they actually contribute to your professional excellence.
Uh, I'm sure there could be more questions, but with the paucity of time, and I'm sure with the fact that you have been also been able to exert so much with the present state, we really appreciate the devotion that you have shown this afternoon and taken out time to enrich the members with so much of information that will add value, not in the personal but as well as professional life. I'm sure it's going to go a long way for them as well.
Great.
In my opinion, there are certain points that really that I would maybe trying to follow. One was a very interesting point that you mentioned about digital boundaries as a part of the presentation. So it's
Yeah.
very normal that even when we are out for a vacation or maybe out of office also, we tend to just have a at the back of our mind that we left a text, we left responding to an email or a text So
Correct.
those things kind of disturbs us and we tend to then move out from the situation. So that maintaining the digital boundaries are utmost essential, because otherwise it will keep consuming us and we won't get that freshness to take up the work on the next day. So that's very was very interesting point that you mentioned. And one more point that you mentioned under the growth section, where you said that we are building mentors for tomorrow. Like mentorship involves building leaders or mentors for tomorrow.
Right.
This is also a very interesting analogy that came out as a part of the presentation.
Great.
We really appreciate the efforts that you have put up, the insights that you have given to the fraternity in the situation, and with the restriction of a limitation of your voice as well. Thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you, Shivang, for being such a wonderful moderator, and you moderate the session beautifully. I thank the chairman, sir, vice chairman, sir, the secretary, ma'am, we have, for setting up this session. Because generally we know that these things get missed from our CA lives, right? It's only numbers and technical topics and all these things, right? But I just hope that collectively we all make this profession better, a better space for everybody who's coming in to thrive and to grow. So, and we all of us, including me, including everybody, realize our responsibilities as well towards others. So that was the only thing. Hopefully, I'll wait for more questions and over LinkedIn or email. Uh, so thank you so much, everyone, for being such a wonderful audience. And apologies once again for my condition.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank you.
Raghav Singhal. I would
Thank
like
you.
to thank the committee for on work-life balance of the institute for organizing this webinar and enriching all the members over here with a wonderful speaker and helping us go back to our work with far more opportunities and far more clarity in the state of mind. Thank you to the institute. Thank you so much once again,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Raghav Singhal. We would love
Thank
to
you.
connect with you going forward too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We may now conclude the session. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank you.
Yes, please.